Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. Every lap a story, every driver's dream. On NFR, racing's the supreme. Checkered flags waving, champions arise. NFR brings the glory to our eyes. NFR, where the legends are born. Speeding past the limits, engines reborn. In the fast lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. NFR with the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR's lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You will do NFR, feel the speed. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Oh yeah, engines roar, lights go dim. Yeah. Drama's high, hearts are race. Feel the heat, feel the pace. Oh yeah. Speed and thrill, never slow. Zoom. Champions rise, they all know. In the night, we come alive. SKR, we will drive. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Dayton's night, under lights. Every turn, every fight. Pulses racing, here we go. SKR, steal the show. Rev it up, race it fast. Living dreams as we blast. On this night, we won't rest. SKR, we're the best. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. SKR at 6. Fix. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Yeah, the best. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Renowned! NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beats. Engines roar, can't stay off seats. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. NFR, NFR. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victory's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights are green. Zooming fast, slick machine. Every twist, every scene. Catch the action on your screen. NFR, NFR, yeah. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victory's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, it's a dream. Speed and drama every turn on NFR, the rubber burns. Feel the thrill of every bend, where the champions transcend. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Fernando calls the play on NFR every race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Not Fernando calls the play on NFR at race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Deaf Queen, the top supporter, see in the crowd where speed is keen. NFR, the place to be. Join the race, watch and see. Engines roar, the lights are bright. Sunday night, the crowd takes flight. Drama on the curves tonight. SKR feels so right. Speed and skill, hold on tight. Every turn, hearts ignite. Racers chase the checkered flag. No one's pulling any lag. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Oh! Wheels are spinning, adrenaline high. Twists and turns, we touch the sky. Competition fierce and true. Every point's a breakthrough. Wheels of spirit and under stars. Tension thick, no one's far. Destiny is in the driver's hands. Take the lead, take a stand. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they've got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Crowds cheering under stars, tension thick, no one's far. Destiny is in the driver's hands. Take the lead, take a stand. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they've got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Just burning hot. Feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can't get off fill. Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to NFR. Welcome back to Sunday afternoon with SKR. Of course, it's 6 p.m. and we're ready to go for Season 9, Round 6. We are at the Circuit of the Americas. Of course, JPR paid a visit to the Circuit of the Americas on Friday. SKR is here tonight. We're going to watch the Formula One race at 9 p.m. at this very circuit. And of course, tomorrow on this channel, SAFRL do it all over again. So if you're sick of this track already, still got a fair way to go. Of course, tonight is a sprint race. So we're going straight into the formation lap for that sprint race. So far this season, in the Drivers' Championship, the Aston Martins have been dominating. You can see that wins in X3, the two teammates leading the championship 1 and 2. Two McLarens also looking strong, Big T and Convoy in 3 and 5. Of course, note that Ferrari in P4 at spikes. Then in the Constructors' Championship, as you'd imagine, Aston Martin leading the way. Their drivers 1 and 2 in the Constructors. And of course, that's where we are in the calendar, round 6 sprint race here in Austin. We're now in the closing stages of this formation lap. Drivers just doing final preparations for the race. Those final preparations coming in the way of just getting some final tyre temperature into the tyres, some brake temperature into the brake discs. Very unique turn 1 here at the Circuit of the Americas. Of course, fantastic climb up to that first corner, almost 40 meters. And then a very wide, almost left-hand hairpin. Let me know if my voice is a bit better now at Magozi or if it's too loud. It's just going into the red there a little bit, so I think I'm a bit too loud, but let me know if that's a bit better. Of course, we don't get the very best camera angle, but that's down to F124. Gonna have to wait for the first 100 meters of the race until you get a decent camera angle. It's gonna be Spikes versus Ronald into turn 1. I was gonna say Andre not far behind, but Andre's got his way up into P2. Fantastic start there for the Williams, making up 2 positions at the start. Spikes leads the way from Andre, then Ronald in P3. Then we have the pair of Aston Martins, the 2 dominant cars this season, P1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship. Leaders in the Constructors' Championship, they're 4 and 5, early days in the sprint race. Of course, just 10 laps in this race. Going to have a much longer feature race, round about 28 laps, something like that. Of course, the sprint race 1/3 of your race distance. So Aston Martin still 4 and 5. A little further back, Diver and P6. Then we've got the pair of Haas drivers, Bloodshed and Levy, 7 and 8. Got Virus in P9, Awakes in P10. Remember, just the top 8 score points in the sprint format. Then we've got Convoy down in P11, Martin P12, Scott P13. Ooh, we've had a spin. That looks like a Ferrari. It's Martin going backwards in the field. You won't be happy with that. Means Joe goes up to 13, Harsh Cartoon 14, then the pair of Red Bulls, Pantry Star and Top Gun 15 and 16. We've got Smurf 17. And now Martin at the rear of the field in P18. We've got Skull a little further back as well. A lot of cars having misfortunes on lap 1, but I don't see anyone coming into the pits, so I don't think anyone's got major damage. But that everything disappeared. And there it is, it's back. So Spikes out front, 1.3 seconds is the gap. We do have a yellow flag in sector 1. Andre P2, then Wheeze P3. Those Aston Martins starting to make their way through the field very quickly now. Got Ronald splitting the Aston Martins, but for how much longer? That's an Aston Martin up the inside. It's Ferrari trying to follow his teammate through the order. Doesn't want to get stuck behind the Kicksauber for too much longer. Of course, that's the only seat in Formula 1 still available for the 2025 season, and a lot of speculation around who's going to take that seat. Of course, Sauber only offering Valtteri Bottas half of what he wanted on his contract. So many believe he will walk away from the sport, leaving that seat open. Definitely one to watch. Spikes at the front, continuing to grow the gap. I mentioned him in that Constructors' Championship. He was P4 or 5. It really comes down to just consistent driving. He won too many races, but he's just always been there. Got an Alpine going sideways there. We didn't get to see which one it was. There's 19 drivers in the field, so it's going to be a busy feature race. Already lost one driver, Pantry Star, grayed out at the bottom of your screen there. That's one of the 2 Red Bulls. Leader is still a Ferrari, and that gap now starting to close, and the reason that gap is starting to close is the Aston Martin has cleared Andre. The Aston Martin's got a bit of clean air now, and one of the 2 Aston Martins that has been dominating this championship so far, this season so far, now has some clean air, can demonstrate what he's done the rest of the season. As for his teammate, has just got past Ronald. Now he's chasing after Andre, looking to put both Aston Martins on the podium. It is lap 3 of 10. Still a way to go. And that gap to Spikes dropping and dropping quickly, 7/10 of a second. Feel so powerless. Your laps feel good. You feel in tune with the car, you feel in tune with the race, and then all of a sudden you look up, you see your opponent and he's closing in on you. You say, hold on, I'm not lifting, I'm not driving within myself, this is my best. And he just keeps on getting closer. Feel really powerless. All you have to do is defend, keep that car in the middle of the circuit, try not look in your mirrors too much. Keep focusing on your braking points and your apexes. When you start concentrating too much on your mirrors, things go wrong very quickly. Andre still having a strong race up in P3. Its Ferrari has actually fallen adrift from that Williams. I wonder if the second Aston Martin just made a mistake somewhere. Got Ronald in P5, then the pair of Haas drivers, 6 and 7. Of course, last night, 2 Haas were 7 and 8 in the sprint race, giving them their best ever result in any format around COTA. At the moment, 5 and 7 for the home team. Many don't think of Haas as an American team because, well, their factory's in England, down the road from Silverstone. Spikes now coming under heavy pressure from Wheeze. We ride on board with that Aston Martin. Wheeze getting awfully close. He's got the DRS. He's going to go to the outside. I don't think it should be any problem. I think the Ferrari pretty much accepted that. Not too much you can do. And they Yes, you put your car in the middle of that corner and cause a collision. So Spike's just getting out of the way and now trying to stay within that DRS. See if Weeze can just tow him around. Of course, Weeze does have the lap on lap advantage. He's just been quicker. But if that pace is only 2 or 3 tenths quicker and you're within DRS every lap, you should be able to hold on to that driver regardless of his time advantage. So Weeze now out front. Spikes led the race up until now, lap 5, halfway through the race. Weeze has now taken control at the front. Spikes P2, Andre still in P3. It's Free actually falling down the order. I wonder if that car has some sort of damage, because now Levy up into P4. Let's have a look if we can get a good view of that. Aston Martin appears to have all its bits still connected. So it's Free. It's losing a bit of momentum, looked really quick in the beginning. Something obviously just going wrong. Losing that momentum and starting to go backwards through the field. We do have a caution in sector 3, but luckily it disappears before I can even finish the sentence. Last thing we ever want is a safety car in a sprint race. Andre in P3, but he's going to have a very, very difficult job holding on to that podium. He's got 2 very quick, very hungry drivers just behind him. Levy and the Haas. He'd love to pick up a podium for Haas this evening in the sprint race. It's Ferrari would love to correct the wrongs that happened not so long ago. Of course, his teammate has been able to clear the field, get himself up into the lead. Ideally, he would have loved to have followed his teammate. Hit a bit of a speed bump. Now he's still got another 4 laps to try and correct that, get the Aston Martin up into P1. Remember, the last time this channel was live was Tuesday night, and that is just a team championship. That's about teams working together to get as many points as possible. This is a team championship, but it's also a driver's championship. So as much as those teammates are going to be nice to each other, they're also in a title fight. Aston Martin P1 and 2. We saw that battle of Spikes and Weeze. Looked like Weeze had all the pace in the beginning, caught up to Spikes so quickly, but now Spikes just able to stay with Weeze. And I think this was what I was talking about earlier. Even if the Aston Martin does have 3 or 4 tenths advantage on the driver behind, he's able to just cancel it out with the DRS around this circuit. Just got to make sure you stay within that 1 second mark. Otherwise the Aston Martin could peel off into the distance. So Weeze still out front, Spike's still in P2, then Andre. Andre has responded. Said he was going to have his hands full holding on to that podium. Now all of a sudden he's got a comfortable gap. Levy more than 1.3 seconds adrift from the man in P3. Still being chased hard by It's Ferrari in P5. He hasn't been able to make the overtakes as his teammate was. Convoy in P6. Then you got Ronald in P7, formerly known as Boinkies. Then Virus in P8. Divan P9. And the second of the Haas drivers, he was running a lot closer to his teammate earlier on in the race. Now his teammate up in P4. Bloodshed down in P10. Of course, in a feature race, that would be the final point. In a sprint race, he's just outside the points. He's actually just gone up the inside of Divan, picked up 1 position up into P9. But for a point, he's going to have to find another 5.3 seconds to catch the car up the road. Something we haven't mentioned in the sprint race is when JPR visited this layout on Friday night, there were a lot of penalties. Of course, in the sprint race you might not see that many penalties because it's quite a short race and you can behave yourself for 10 laps. But after 28 laps, those warnings start to add up, and eventually you have a situation where half or more of the field all have penalties. It's a very complicated situation. and one that, if a safety car comes out in the late stages of the race, can really just throw everything up in the air and make the timing sheet on the left completely irrelevant. Sprint race, lap 8 of 10. Not long to go now, we're in the closing stages. Spikes has retaken the lead of the race. And as we say that, we go back to that battle only to watch Wheeze steal the lead back. But does he get the car stopped? Yes, he does. Of course, if you were watching the sprint race last night, you would have seen Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz going back and forth just like that. Charles Leclerc passed Carlos Sainz on 3 or 4 occasions, only to have Charles Leclerc do a slip back. Obviously, getting past is one thing, getting the car stopped is quite another. And it took Carlos 3 or 4 attempts to get past his teammate. Eventually he did. Got up the road, past George Russell as well. Finished P3. Good performance for the Ferraris. And Spikes emulating that sort of driving here tonight. Attacking the Aston Martin all the way. Aston Martin dominated the constructors, dominated the drivers. Spikes didn't let that get into his head. Didn't let the Aston Martin simply drive off into the distance. He's fighting for this win. It's a pretty good fight. Could come up to who's got DRS on that final lap. To everyone who has joined on the stream, welcome. Some of you, Skull, Death Queen, Apmagozi, Dixie Killer, of course Ronald. He's on the stream, but he's also in the car, so he's listening to us in the background. Of course, if anyone is in communication with any of the drivers, or if any of the drivers are in the comment section, just if you can give me any sort of confirmation on the weather. What are we looking at for the feature race? Of course, this sprint race will count as your quali session. No quali session in between now and the feature race. I believe this will determine your grid order. Then we'll be underway all over again for what will be almost 30 laps, 28 I believe. Not sure if the half the 50% distance, all I know is 100% distance is 56, so I think it's 28. We still out front, 0.5 of a second is the gap. Spikes, would love it to be a little bit more closer than that. Nobody knows about the weather just yet. Look up towards the sky and everything looks pretty okay. Of course, this is lap 10 of 10. Future race could look very different. We've seen it in the past, where everything looks quite blue skies, very weather friendly, and then all of a sudden we go from one session to another and it's as dark as you've ever seen it, and the rain is falling and there's standing water everywhere. So who knows? I think if we did have a weather problem like that on the horizon, one of the drivers would have probably told me already in the comment section. Don't think Spice is going to have enough at the end. Weezer's left the best till the end. He's opened up that gap when it counted the most. And the Aston Martin of Wheeze is going to pick up the 8 points for the sprint race, followed closely by Spikes. Good drive from him. Then we've got Conboy. He's going to come over the line in P3. Levy P4, but he's got a penalty. That's going to promote Andre into P4, Levy 5, Virus 6. And now we'll just wait for the guys towards the back of the field. Wait for those official results. Not too many penalties, but for just 10 laps, we're a handful. Good warning for all the drivers of what could be on the way in the feature race. Make sure you stay within those white lines. Driver of the day, at least for the sprint races, Convoy. Divan has left the session at a not the best time to leave the session, so let's try and get through this order. We've only got 30 seconds. Weiss takes the victory from Spikes in P2, then Convoy P3, followed by Andre, Levy, Virus, Ronald, and it's Ferree. Those are your points finishers. Then outside the points, Smurf D9, Divan 10, Scott Martin 11, Harsh Platoon 12, Bloodshed 13, Top Gun 14, Awakes 15, Scott 16, Joe 17. I believe we're at the 2 DNFs, Skull and Pantry Star. For some reason my Discord is quiet most of the day, and then as soon as I start to commentate, I start getting DMs. It's distracting. Of course, now we look at the empty pit lane one more time. That's because all of the cars are to the right hand side of your screen. They're all looking up the 40-meter embankment in front of them. They're all concentrating on what turn 1 is going to look like, what they need to do in turn 1. Of course, a little bit more complicated than the sprint race. The sprint race, there's no pit stops. You just need to select a tire that you believe you can get to the end of the race on. Of course, in the feature race, a little bit different. You have to use 2 compounds. It's up to you which one you're going to start the race on, how deep into the race you intend to go. Those are the choices the drivers will be making right now. Of course, we will get another formation lap. There we go. Should get the dual green lights. We do. Now everyone will get another opportunity to go around this circuit again like they did the last time. Get tire temperature, get brake temperature. Just you're basically preparing that car for turn 1 to the very best of your ability. If you're at the front of the field, you've got to remember not to do the formation lap too quickly. That could mean you land up in your pit box and you have to wait for all of these drivers to get back into position. Remember, we had 19 drivers in the sprint race. We're up to 20. So somebody has been able to squeeze in here. Everybody will have a teammate for the race. It's Ferree disqualified, but don't be too worried about that. That'll be a mistake on the formation lap. Basically sends you back to the start finish line. You have to sit there patiently while everybody else drives around prepping their car for turn 1. You sit there with ice cold tires, ice cold brakes, hoping for the best. Go down your order one more time before the start of the race. The starting order is going to be Spikes and Ronald from the front row of the grid. Then Andre and the other Salva from the second row of the grid. That's Joe Kutsia. They're followed by Divan, it's Ferree, Smurf, Bloodshed, Virus, and Revolution. Those are your top 10. Then on the other side of things, on the other side of the top 10, you've got Weiss P11, the 2 Red Bulls, 12 and 13. That's Pantry Star and Top Gun. You've got Skull and P14 in the second Williams, Harsh Cartoon P15, Awakes 16, Scott 17, Martin 18, and then that last row, Convoy and Levy. Again, not the best camera angle, nothing we can do. Blame the producers. You won't see the red lights, but you should be able to hear them. There we go. 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, and when they go out, we'll be underway. And there we go. Ferrari versus Sauber into turn 1. A will of Williams get themselves involved. The second Sauber's already lost a whole host of positions. Both started in P4, and look at that, he's gone down the order all the way down to P8, so bad news for the one Sauber, good news for the other. Ronald's been able to hold on to P3, but Andre doing a very good job in the early stages. He's gone all the way up to P2. Spikes still leads the way, started from pole, but very well in the sprint race, was able to hold on to P2. Even though he had to fight the pace of the Aston Martins. Of course, it's Ferrari will be looking for a stronger race. Had a great start to the race and then just sort of fell away as things progressed. Looking to get himself up into the top 3 positions in this feature race, something he wasn't able to do in the sprint race. 28 laps for this feature race. It's going to be 3 times, a little bit less than 3 times longer than that sprint race. Of course, when we're done here, it's not going to be much longer, and you can flick over to watch the real deal. Lando Norris starting from pole later tonight. No McLaren here in the top 10. You have to go all the way down to P12 to find your first McLaren. That's Convoy, driver of the day in the sprint race. Finds himself all the way down in P12. And then to find the second McLaren. Go to the penultimate position on the timing screen. That is Scott in P19. Oh, and you're so lucky, we almost lost the stream, and I don't know why, but my GPU something just jumped on my PC. Luckily it's gone back down. Spikes leads the way from Andre. Gap still within DRS. Of course, the DRS zones at this circuit so overpowered, so important to stay within that 1 second. Once you fall out of that 1 second, it becomes a lot more difficult to stay with that car in front of you. Andre gets so close. Not close enough to make an overtake, but close enough to get right on the back of that car. Now he needs to stay right on the back of the Ferrari as long as he can till he can get to the start-finish line where he can open up DRS again. So ideally you'd like your gap to be around half a second when you open up that DRS. Anything over half a second and that pass is going to take a serious lunge. That's something you want to do in the early stages of the race. In fact, not something you want to do at any point in the race. Field already spreading out, just lap 3. Top Gun sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Where is Top Gun? That's the man all the way down in P14. So it shows you the pace of this field. Drivers down at the bottom of the field setting fastest laps. It doesn't matter where you go in the field, if you're at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom, there's probably going to be fast drivers there. Just some of them may be out of position because the night's not going according to plan. But we have the 3 manufacturers in the top 3. Ferrari, a Williams and a Haas. And of course the 2 Aston Martins, 4 and 5. It's Ferrari and Weiss. This time it's Ferrari just ahead of his teammate. Something he wasn't able to do in the sprint race. Those Aston Martins will try and work a little bit more effectively this time around in coming through the field, but they've got a Red Bull messing up their plans. He's passed the one. Is he going to try and pass the other? He was going to try and pass the other around the outside. The move was a little too audacious. Decided against it. He's going to sit behind the Aston Martin a little longer, but Pantry Star showing that he does have some serious speed. We'll bring up the data on your screen, so you, the viewer, has a better idea of what's going on. You can see everyone there in the top 5, medium set of tyres. Then we have a trio of hard runners. It's Ferrari, Virus and Ronald, 6, 7 and 8, all on the hard compound. It does seem like the medium is the more popular choice. I've had 2 retirements, Divan and Scott, at the rear of the field. Don't know if those incidents were related in any way, but both drivers have retired from the race, so just 18 drivers remaining in this one. Spike still at the lead, and he has crucially opened that gap up to just over a second, so things are going to start getting a little bit more difficult for Andre. As for Andre, he hasn't been able to get Bloodshed quite out of the DRS, and there we go, he just has. So 3 seconds cover the top 3, no DRS between those top 3. Then P4 another 2 seconds back, so the field really starting to spread out. Pantry Star still looking for that P4. He's putting pressure on Wheeze. That was the top performing Aston Martin in the sprint race and the winner of the sprint race. Wheeze would much rather be concentrating on the top 3 up the road from him, but needs to keep an eye on the mirrors. A Red Bull behind him. Red Bull that already passed his teammate. A Red Bull that would very much like to do the same all over again. It's Ferrari in P6 and Virus 7. There were 3, there were a trio. Where's the third car on the hards? There it is. It's Ronald. He's lost a position to Levy. That's Selva going down the field. Remember, the Selvas started in P2 and 4. They're now 10 and 18. So the first stint of the race has not gone according to plan. For the Kick Selva team. Team that's been known as many names. What started out as Selva. At one stage was called BMW Selva F1 team. BMW left the sport. Peter Selva managed to buy the team back, meaning it became Selva once more. It was then briefly known as Alfa Romeo, and soon it will be Audi. Almost every single team on the grid has had multiple name changes, with the exception of 3. There are 3 teams still on the grid that still have their original name from when they started in Formula 1. They've been there ever since. 4 if you include Mercedes, but Mercedes did take quite a long break in this war to Formula 1. 3 teams that have had the same name ever since they started are, of course, Ferrari, Williams and McLaren. Spikes leading the way, 1.7 seconds. Bloodshed in P2, he's been doing a good job. We weren't watching him, but he's cleared Andre. Andre was in P2 for a long time, but that horse has now cleared the Williams. Where is Wheeze? Wheeze is in a battle, is he? He's trying to get past Andre himself now, trying to get himself into the top 3. The drivers can see Spikes getting away up the road. They need to get out front. Can't sit behind the Williams for much longer. Lap 6 of 28. No stoppages in the race so far. No major incidents. We have lost 3 cars, Skull, Divan and Scott. None of those incidents have triggered a safety car or a stoppage of any kind. Just a brief yellow flag here and there. Everybody in the comment section goes so quiet when the race is on. Before the race is going, looks like the comment section's going to be busy, but as soon as the race gets going, everybody keeps quiet, so Keep on talking. Keep on saying something. Let me know you're there. Who do you think's going to go on to win this race? Is Wheeze going to find his way back to the front? And as we say the name of Wheeze, there he goes up the inside of the horse, but the horse is going to fight back. But no, he's not. He's going to simply slot behind. And the Aston Martin, the winner of the sprint race, Wheeze, now up into P3, beginning to challenge Andre. Good to see Ngozi is still here, watching and enjoying. Spikes out front. Andre in P2, coming under heavy pressure from Wheeze. In fact, not only Wheeze, look at that behind him. He's got Wheeze, Bloodshed, Pantry Star. It's Faree, Convoy, Lebby, all of those cars down to P8 within DRS of each other. And Wheeze isn't going to wait much longer. Goes for the lunge, gets it done. Does he get it stopped? Yes, he does. Stays in front of the Williams. And now he's got some clean air to go and chase that Ferrari up the road. 3.5 seconds up the road. That's the Ferrari he had to tussle with to get the sprint race victory. Came out on top. This time round, roles are reversed. Does Wheeze have 3.5 seconds in him to catch that Ferrari up the road, and is he able to wriggle off the Williams, or will he simply bring these cars with him? Spikes would be hoping that Andre gives him a bit of a handful, finds himself in a battle here for P2. That would just allow the Ferrari driver a little bit more time to drive away. Spikes made a mistake. I think Spikes may have made a mistake. The gap now just 7/10 of a second. He had a few seconds over Wheeze. I think it was 3.5 seconds at a stage. Now just 7/10 of a second. I wonder if Spikes left the race circuit. So easy to make a mistake. Even when you think you've got this done, you're setting the laps, you're out front, you've got a big gap. And the smallest mistake, all of a sudden all the pressure is on. Your mirrors go from empty to full. You've got to go from an attacking mode into a defensive mode, and now Wheeze, that's as close as you're going to see it. Up the inside, not quite enough. It's going to be all about traction this time around the outside. This is fantastic racing, inside into the next corner. I think Wheeze has got it done. It's all about getting it stopped, and he's got it stopped. Nicely done by the Aston Martin. This time around he'll want to shake Spikes off as quickly as possible. He wasn't really able to do that in the sprint race. He just towed the Ferrari behind him, and the Ferrari still came back at him a few times, trying to take that win back. So will Wheeze? Yes, Wheeze. Wheeze will have learned from that, and he'll want to get away from that Ferrari as soon as possible. As for Andre, he's in P3. He'd love to get rid of those cars behind him. He'd love to just see them disappear, getting smaller and smaller into his mirrors. Just secure himself this P3, get himself into a comfortable bubble in the race. That's when you can just concentrate on your lap. You don't have to worry about your mirrors. You don't have to worry about any proximity errors popping up at the bottom of your screen. And keep all your attention ahead of you. Worry about your next braking point. Worry about your next apex. And that's really all a driver ever wants to concentrate on. It's his next braking point, and then his next apex. Thinking about anything more than that, mistake is never far away. Andre, good job, back up into P3, lost it briefly to the Red Bull, fights back, holds on to that podium position. He's not going to give it up without a fight. Tresso now leaves the session, so that means that car will be Tresso in a car. Where is Tresso's name on the leaderboard? I don't see Tresso's name on the leaderboard. But he was in the lobby, and he has since left the lobby. Maybe he was in spectator mode. Magosi asking what happened to Skull. I don't have any information on Skull. We didn't see it on the stream, and he hasn't hopped into the comment section to let us know. So if Death Queen, if you know what happened to Skull, let us know. As for Andre, his teammate, doing a fantastic job in P3 and holding on to that P3. Did get challenged by Pantry Star not so long ago, but he fought back, took the position right back. Love to be able to concentrate on up the road and catch that Ferrari, but at the moment, got a DRS train behind him. Of course, those three cars behind him also not just running line astern, they're all battling amongst each other for position. The more they battle, the happier Andre will be. He just doesn't want them to battle with him. I might be sitting a little bit too far away from my laptop, but I believe Skull is saying that his idol is... I don't know if I should read that. Surely that's not right. Skull's idol is Lance Stroll. Andre now comes into the pits. These are the first round of pit stops that we're starting to see in the race. So that first pit window is so important. Come in a little too early, it could cost you. You come in a little too late, it could cost you. Weeze out front, Spikes P2. Those two drivers have not pit. Convoy P3, also no pit stop from him. It's Ferrari, Vias, Ronald, all on the hard compound. So they won't be thinking about a pit stop just yet. Got to go all the way down the order to P9 to find the first man that has made a pit stop. The Williams driver of Andre is out on the hard tyre. I presume he's going to be looking to go to the end of the race on that tyre unless we have some sort of stoppage in the race. He is the first of the drivers to have pit, and he does have fresh rubber and some clean air ahead of him. So now he can just go and get some laps done and not worry too much about that DRS train behind him that had been nagging him for so long. Again, I might be sitting a little bit too far away from my comment section, but because he's saying that he shares the same idol, I think. I'm not sure. Lance Stroll getting lots of love on NFR. Now we have Weeze in P1, it's Ferrari in P2. We speak of Lance Stroll, and all of a sudden the two Aston Martins out in P1 and 2. It's the first time we've seen them P1 and 2 in the order in the sprint race or the feature race. Of course, neither of those cars have made pit stops. They're both on very, very different strategies. Weeze on a medium set of tyres. It's Ferrari, hard set of tyres. He's going to be going a little bit longer into the race than his teammate, but he does have a 5.5 second deficit to that teammate. Spikes in that's not Spikes, that's Virus in P3, doing a good job for the Mercedes team. Ronald P4. Now the first of the cars that have pit, it was Andre, it's now Spikes. Spikes has come in to make a pit stop, he's in P6, still ahead of Andre, so he was able to hold on to that lead. The lead did come down a little, it's just a 1.5 seconds now. Looks like the cars that did go in first are getting a bit of an undercut, are making a little bit of time up. Smurf and Weeze, the two medium runners at the front that are yet to pit, and as I say that, Weeze goes left into that pit entry, the pit entry that was designed off the Kyalami pit entry. Of course, this circuit including design elements of many circuits around the world, including Maggots and Beckett's, including the long sweeping right-hander in Sector 3 that comes from Turkey. Many small parts of various race circuits introduced into this circuit upon its designing. And the final corner and the pit entry happens to be designed after Kyalami. We're driving now with Weeze, who has eventually come into the pits. Remember, he was leading the race. I think he was one of the cars to take the mediums the furthest. He has since come into the pits. It means he should have a slight tire advantage on everyone else around him in those closing laps. Remember, he pit 3 laps later than some of the other drivers. I think everybody will be able to get to the end on these hards. That shouldn't really be in question. Just could mean if your hards are 3 or 4 laps fresher at the end of the race, that could be the advantage you need. We spoke about penalties potentially being a big issue in this race. Just the 4 drivers picking up penalties so far, so everything still looking pretty under control. Of course, we've got no indication of which drivers have what penalties. A lot of these drivers could be on the brink of penalties and we wouldn't know it. We only know once we get the confirmation of a penalty, then we know they've had their 3 warnings. Of course, on Friday night, around this very layout, we had drivers picking up as much as 9 and 12. Once that first one comes, everything snowballs. Remember, the moment you start driving with frustration, things go wrong. Things go awfully wrong. So many times you see a driver at the front, looks unstoppable, makes one mistake, then another, then all of a sudden he's falling down the field, and then you see a DNF next to his name. We've seen it many times. And that's usually what happens. It's a mistake you just can't let go of. You focus on it for a little too long, and while you're focusing on your previous mistake, you make another one. Death Queen showing her support for Williams. Of course, the one Williams already eliminated from this race, that was Skull. I think he just decided to retire early so he can start getting ready for the Formula 1 race. It's Formula 1 getting underway at 9 o'clock. Usually on a Sunday when we do this, we've already watched the Formula 1 Grand Prix. This time we're doing this first, and then we're going to do the Formula 1 Grand Prix. Virus in the pits from P2. It's free. Also in the pits, Ronald becomes the new race leader at the front of the race. 14 lap old hards. It's the oldest set of hards on the circuit. He is the only driver, or rather, as well as Awakes and Revolution, the only drivers to be out on exactly the same set of tyres they started the race on. Everybody else has made a visit to the pits. Ronald still holding on to that lead. Doesn't want to give the lead up to Weeze, even though Weeze is in the lead of the race provisionally. But Ronald decides it's not worth the battle, it's not worth the wheel-to-wheel and the risk that comes with wheel-to-wheel. He knows he still needs to make a pit stop. He's not fighting the Aston Martin. Might as well tuck in behind that Aston Martin, take all the DRS he can get, and get towed around for a little longer until he decides it's his turn to visit the pits. Been doing really well tonight. We're only halfway through the race. We've already got 50 views on this particular race. So thank you to everyone who's watching. Just a lot of familiar names coming back every night for the racing, and it's always so good to see. Great to see support on the channel. Just makes it worth it. guys couldn't tune in and you guys couldn't enjoy it, this would be pretty pointless. So while I do the work for the channel, it's the supporters that make the channel work. Otherwise, it will be for nothing. Thanks to everyone who is watching. Of course, if you love COTA and you love what you're seeing, you need to tune in tomorrow night because we're going to do it all over again. SAFRL at 8 o'clock. We're going to be here at COTA. And some of the drivers you see out on track, you might see them tomorrow night as well. Wheeze from Ronald, from Convoy, from Spikes. Then Levy P5, Pandristar P6, Andre P7. Remember, he was on a podium position not so long ago. But this pit window has definitely switched things around. Pandristar going wheel to wheel with a Williams. I was going to say, which Williams is that? It can only be one Williams. The other Williams has been eliminated. That is Andre fighting with Pandristar. No tyre advantage between those two drivers. Both on the hard compound, both 5 laps old, so no tyre advantage coming in that pass. Somebody diving into the pits just up the road from us. I think that was Ronald diving into the pits. He was still on a set of hard tyres from the start of the race. Revolution now picks up a 3-second time penalty, and as I think as we get into the later stages of the race, these penalties will start creeping in. So easy to cut track limits at this circuit, and not so much as cutting corners. Your problem is usually running wide on the outside of corners, just when you're trying to use all of the racetrack, trying to get the best possible traction, the best possible grip. You go in search of all the tarmac you can find, and sometimes you use a little too much. If you've ever tried to close a 3-second gap, you'll know how difficult it is to make up 3 seconds. So every time you get one of those 3-second penalties, it's a real stab in the heart. And look at this for a battle. I think we almost saw a double overtake. Aston Martin got through on the Red Bull. The Williams almost got through on the Red Bull. Couldn't quite make it stick. But these three giving us some fantastic racing, some wheel to wheel. It's Ferrari, Pandristar and Andre. It's Ferrari at the top of that battle for now. He's on the medium tyre. He should have a little bit better grip than the cars around him. He also has a fresher tyre than the cars around him. So it's Ferrari. We'll be concentrating on the next car up the road, Levy. Getting away from those cars behind him should be a mere formality. He does have the advantage in tyre age and tyre grip. Rather tyre compound. At the front it's Wheeze, 5 seconds is the gap. He leads from Convoy. That was the driver of the day in the sprint race. So he's having a good evening. The other McLaren has since retired. Could be the factor in the Constructors' Championship. That really comes down to is McLaren's looking good in the Constructors' Championship. They don't have that second car. The Aston Martins, teammates, they're a little too strong. Quickly looking at that Constructors' Championship, sorry to take you away from the action, but Aston Martin 172 points, McLaren 110 points. And those are the only two teams in triple digits. So those are the two teams battling it out for the Constructors' Championship. And at the moment, McLaren only has one of those cars up in the points paying positions. The other one has retired, so it'll be a bit of a knock for McLaren. Looks like that championship lead could extend if things end the way they do. Welcome to Visor in the comment section. Good to have you here. Always here on a Sunday night for SKR, always on the channel on a Tuesday night for League v League, supporting SKR. Good to have you here. We still leads the way. Convoy in P2. Levy in P3. Those three cars pretty spread out in the top three. 7 seconds between them. Spikes in P4, but he's managed to pick up a penalty as well. It's Ferree in P5, then Pantry Star P6. Then we have the lone Williams of Andre in P7, the pair of Williams, Virus and Harsh Cartoon in 8 and 9. And then obviously that last point going to Ronald in P10. Advisor, please do give me an update on the cricket. What is the second innings score? And if I see a lot of wickets, I'm just going to get PTSD. Proteas fan since the mid-90s. Had to watch them miss many World Cups. Sort of lost faith in the men's team. Was hoping the women would be able to do it tonight, but I'm a little bit too scared to look at the score. Watch New Zealand bat. Wasn't able to watch South Africa bat because I had to come and entertain news. Advisor, how many wickets down are we? So Weeze leads the way from Convoy, Spikes in P3, Levy P4. It's Ferree in P5. 102 for 6 from 16.2 overs, 58 balls, 58 runs required from 28 balls. That is going to take quite an impressive. Somebody's gonna have to come out there at the end and really hit that ball out the park a couple of times. No, do the ladies have their own version of David Miller to come in at 5 or 6? So that's exactly what they need. Let's get back to the racing. If I start talking about cricket, I'm gonna forget about what's happening on the screen. Weeze leads the way, Convoy P2, Levy P3. We've got Spikes in P4. It's Ferree P5. You know, Advisor, it's probably the only sport I think I'd be a better commentator. I'd be a better cricket commentator than I am an F1 commentator. I used to watch way too much cricket until the Proteas ironically extinguished the flame. Weeze doing everything he needs to do, 4.9 seconds. It's really just about getting to the end now for him. Keeping that car in a straight line, not doing anything silly, not picking up any penalties, not leaving the racetrack. I think I saw something on screen, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm probably incorrect. Oh wow, okay. I said I saw something on screen and I don't want to talk about it because I was maybe wrong, but there's evidence of it. Let's look on board. That is rain. Rain is falling. Now the question is, how long will it take for this track to change over into intermediate conditions? Of course, the race on Friday night was not broadcast, the JPR race, but if you were there, you would have known we had a similar situation with rain. Rain obviously came a little bit earlier on in the race, but people didn't quite know what tyre to be on. The track was sort of working for both tyres for a little bit longer than you would expect. And if everyone is going to dive into the pits, or if anyone is going to stay out there and just hope the track holds on. We do have a few drivers in the field already that have taken the jump. They've gone on to the intermediate tyre. It might be too early for the intermediates, but I think for most of those guys, they were already at the rear of the field, and it's really just a roll of the dice, and when it goes your way, you might find yourself getting a very unexpected result at the end of the race. You could find yourself in a situation where you were outside the top 10 the entire way, and then a roll of the dice and the weather could mean you're firmly inside the top 10 by the end of the race. Two Mercedes at Magosi, just confirming both Mercedes jumping to intermediates. Quite a bit of the field now on the intermediate tyre. Top 7 cars in the field, still on a slick. Those are Weeze, Convoy, Spikes, Levy, It's Free, Pantry Star and Andre. Gap just starting to fall ever so slightly. The gap was 5 seconds, it's now 4.5 seconds. Wonder if Weeze is just having a slightly more difficult time on these slick tyres than his opponents are. Of course, things will start to get slippery. Corners that you could once take at full throttle, you will now have to start to think twice about how you enter these corners. But he's not going to take any more risks. I think he knows he's losing time. 4.3 seconds. Weeze dives into the pits. What does Convoy do? And that's what I thought he'd do. He's going to roll the dice. He's going to go for track position. He's going to go for the lead of the race. And he's going to hope. He's going to hope these conditions don't get much worse. Might be able to handle the track for now. Of course, once that crossover point comes, he's going to be driving on ice. So he'll be hoping that crossover point does not come. Not sure what happened there. Either Levy was going very slowly or he just had a frame rate drop. So Levy P2, it's Free, the pair of Aston Martins 3 and 4. It's Free, interestingly enough, he's in front of his teammate with a set of slicks. So the top 3 drivers, they've decided to stay out there, hold on to track position and hope for the best. Apologies, it wasn't that Magosi, it was Visor. Me there on the Williams going in for the Inters. Now most of the field has gone in for the Inters. I wonder if that roll of the dice was a bit too risky for Convoy. Could have come into the pits and possibly held on to that P2 in the race. Decided to stay out. Try and hold things together for the last couple of laps. Pull a Brad Binder at the Red Bull ring. So long as you don't pull a Lando Norris at Sochi. Both were trying the same thing. One succeeded, the other not so much. Convoy thought he wasn't going to get it stopped into the pit entry, but eventually he does. Convoy into the pits. Levy follows him into the pits, and I think we'll see much of the same from Itchbury. So the top 3 drivers all into the pits. That means Weeze will retake the lead of this race. As saying now 46 from 13, that's getting a little bit rough now. We're almost down to 2 overs remaining. If you're looking at a run rate of 24 and over, or in other words 12 boundaries. Could just do it in 8 sixes. You choose. Either 8 sixes, 12 boundaries, either one would be impressive. Weeze leads the way from Convoy, then Spikes P3, Pantry Star still in P4, Virus still in the top 5. If he wants to stay in the top 5, he's got a little bit of work to do. He's got to defend from Levy. Some of these drivers do have penalties. We haven't looked at the numbers attached to these penalties. Doesn't look like anybody's in too much trouble. We've got most of the, well, all the penalties you see on your screen are 3-second penalties, with the exception of Martin on 6, Joe on 6, and Revolution on 9. The rest of the penalties you see on your screen are just 3-second penalties. Nothing too worrying. And as far as that late safety car I was speaking about, time is running out. Of course, once we get to lap 26, we can confidently say we are safe from a safety car. We're not on lap 26, we're not on lap 25, so these guys are going to have to hold things together for at least 5.4 kilometers more. Good to see quite a few of you are watching. Numbers were a little bit higher in qualifying. I think that's because some of the drivers were watching. It's just great to see that most of you who start off the stream watch the stream to its end. And of course, this is just a warm-up. Remember, 3 laps to go in the race, but 9 PM tonight, get to watch the real deal. Max Verstappen versus Lando Norris into that very turn 1. It's going to be an interesting scenario. And if you watched the sprint race last night, Lando Norris started in P4 and he was in P2 at the exit of turn 1. If he's able to replicate that start, he shouldn't have any problems today. Hopefully his start demons from the past don't creep back in. Speaking of Red Bull, we just watched one go sideways. Pantry Star holding on to things, but that could have been so much worse in the closing stages of the race. Of course, they're all on intermediate tyres, but the last thing you want to do is go off circuit. If you're lucky enough not to hit a barrier, that's great, but you're still going to get your tyres all over the grass. Get your tyres all dirty, get all that temperature you've worked into the tyres, eliminate all of that temperature, you come back onto the track. And all the tools you once had at your disposal to defend have now disappeared. With Queen showing her Sport 4 LN4, that's Lando Norris. Of course, a very popular driver. For some reason I find that he's the sort of driver that most people like. Just every now and then gets a little grumpy. It's Wheeze out front, then Convoy P2, Spikes P3, that order remains the same. Pantry Star P4, followed by Lebby. It's Ferrari, rather Virus in P6, then It's Ferrari P7, Andre P8, Ronald P9, and the final point at the moment going to Smurf. Clock is ticking down. Drivers will start looking at the top left hand side of their screen and counting the laps down. Of course, that's if you're not in a battle, but if you're having a quiet race to yourself, as it happens many times, especially if you had one of these drivers at the back, you can just see revolution. Can't see anyone in his mirrors. You can't see anyone ahead of him. Frustrating time in the race, and it's when you start counting those laps down, you just want to bring the car home, you just want to be over with it. You're outside the points, doesn't look like you have any hope of catching the car ahead. You just want to be done with things, especially in the rain. Wheeze leads from Convoy and Spikes. The gap between the top 3, an incredible 15 seconds. We've seen this league be so close this season, but this is what the rain can do. It really just throws everything up. You've got to remember, all of these drivers in the field probably do a lot of practice in their off time to prepare for these races, to prepare the optimal setups for the various circuits. But what we don't speak about is how many of those drivers put in a lot of time in the wet. Some of them will do a lot of practice, but only 10% of that practice will be in the wet. And that's why all of a sudden we see the close racing. All of a sudden we see gaps start to form in the wet, and it starts to show who spends a lot of time on the damp circuit practicing Wheeze certainly looks like he has a lot of experience on a wet circuit. 4.8 seconds up the road. Ooh, we've got is that a Salba? I think that's the Salba of Joe Kitsia. That car just ghosting. I think he's being lapped. Convoy just needs to hold things together for that P2. Spikes has a penalty next to his name, but he won't be too worried because the two men behind him also have penalties next to their names, so that'll all cancel each other out. Convoy picks up a penalty. I said he didn't have any penalties. Well, now he does. Doesn't need to worry about it too much. Spikes is 14 seconds down the road. So I said maybe most of the drivers would have penalties. Not quite. It's about a 50-50 split. Still a heavy night for the stewards. Give me an update on that score. I'm not getting any updates, and that's usually really bad news. When the updates on the score stop, that's usually because somebody has switched off the channel. Well, that's usually what happens in my case anyway. In fact, when I saw that T20 lineup when it was announced, I was quite surprised not to see Bavuma part of the lineup. Maybe it's a good thing. Wheeze out front from Convoy, then Spikes, Pantry Star and Levy. Top 5 remaining exactly the same. Lots of big gaps in the field. Pantry Star and Levy, they're still fighting over it. Lap 28 of 28. Still trying to decide who's going to finish in P4. Just got to be so careful under these conditions in the closing stages. That's the last thing you want to do, is throw away the points you do have while you're searching for just a handful of extra points. Searching for that extra 4 or 5 points in the championship, and you land yourself costing you a race. It's the last thing you want to do. 3 seconds to Andre. Penalties really starting to add up now. It's the closing stages. The concentration is being pushed to its limits. And anybody racing for position in these conditions is going to pick up penalties. Ooh, that's a horse almost losing everything. Luckily, loses it right at the end. We've had the checkered flag. We're now just waiting for all the drivers to come over the line. We've got a Mercedes going over the line, inspired by another American driver, even if it is a fictional one, Ricky Bobby. Of course, the only difference was Ricky Bobby won a NASCAR race in reverse. There we go. He had to wait till everybody passed him on the track until he could eventually get going again. We're now just going to wait now for the official results. I was just saying that the traction on the controller being quite strong. I don't know, I've never driven it on a controller. Convoy picks up driver of the day for the second time this evening. Of course, he picked it up in the sprint race. He picked it up again in the feature race. There's a brief look at your podium, and I've already muted the game too late. We're going to get a copyright. Let's go through this order real quickly. Let me get the correct results this time. There we go. Wheeze takes the victory from Convoy. Then Spikes P3, Pantry Star P4, Lebby P5. Then it's for Andre, Virus, Ronald, and Smurf, making up the points paying positions. No points on the night. Harsh Cartoon 11, Bloodshed P12, Martin 13, Awakes 14, Revolution 15, Top Gun 16. Joe was ghosting at the end, and then 3 DNFs for Skull, Divan, and Scott. Of course, I will be back with you in 2 or 3 minutes from now. Just going to take a short break. If anybody does want to join the comms box, you can do so. I'll check up on it when I'm back. Until then, we'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes from now, and I'll see you then.
Sunday night, 6 p.m. Oh yeah, engines roar, lights go dim. Yeah, yeah, drama's high, hearts are race. Ooh, feel the heat, feel the pace. Oh yeah, speed and thrill, never slow. Zoom, zoom. Champions rise, they all know. They know. In the night, we come alive. Oh, SKR, we will drive. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Dayton's night, under lights. Oh yeah, every turn, every fight. Pulses racing, here we go. SKR, steal the show. Rev it up, race it fast. Living dreams as we blast. On this night, we won't rest. SKR, we're the best. You're the best. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Yeah, we thrive.
Welcome back, everyone. Looks like nobody's joining the comms box this evening for a chat. I think everybody's getting ready for the Grand Prix in about an hour and a half from now. So I want to thank you all. Thank you all for joining tonight. Thank you to everybody who contributed in the comment section. It's always good to hear from all of you. It's always good to watch a fantastic race together. Of course, if you enjoyed tonight, you need to tune in tomorrow night because we're going to do it all over again. 8 p.m. Circuit of the Americas, this time for SAFRL. And then, of course, Tuesday night, we return for League v League, 8 p.m. on another continent. We're going to Silverstone on Tuesday night. So it's great to see you tonight. Still much more to come on the channel this week, Monday and Tuesday at least. Until then, I hope to see you all there. Everyone who's here tonight, I hope to see you back tomorrow night, or at least on Tuesday. Till then, everyone, if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you haven't left a like, please do. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Till then, enjoy.
Drama high, stars afar, round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Victory's close, who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. track